is good, you? It's your boy Ty back here with another video. And in this video today, guys, we're going to be going over and ranking our top 10 of power forwards in NBA 2K24 MyTEAM. Now, I mean, there's an asterisk with everything. So before I dive into this, I'm just going to talk about who is included in this list and who's not included. 100 overalls, not included in this list. Okay, cards that are strictly behind gambling, not included in this list. So Bobo, KP are not included on this list. Now, I want to say this. Wilt Chamberlain, Galaxy Opal. Okay, he right now is all behind gambling, but he's going to be, or right now he is, but he was a reward and he was available in the pack market. So he is going to be on my center list, okay? Similarly, Galaxy Opal Hakeem Olajuwon going to be on this power forward list. So cards that have been purchasable with the pack market or mode rewards are going to be in this video. And I'll talk about that specifically. The other guy I'm not going to talk about, Nate Thurmond. Why? Because Nate Thurmond is basically impossible to get without gambling. Now, if you got collector Nate Thurmond, I'd run him, okay? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But that's just something to hopefully help you guys out, help you understand where I'm coming from. We're going to start it off at number 10 with Galaxy Opal Alonzo Mourning, one of the newer cards that is going to be featured on this list. Now, Alonzo Mourning, there's one thing I really don't like about Alonzo Mourning, and that's his release. I think, you know, as far as everything else he does for you on the court, the possibilities are endless. I'm just not the biggest fan of that release. Obviously, defensively, he's going to be able to make a lot of plays for you on the offensive end of the court. Again, attacking the rim, stuff like that, setting big screens, going to be able to do that. It just comes down to, I think, you know, his release does hold him back slightly. You still can use him and have a ton of success with the card. He is 6'10", going to get you a lot of paint stops. To me, he's similar to some of the rewards we've seen recently, whether it's Amari Stoudemire, whether it's cards like that. I think Alonzo Mourning is somewhat similar to those type of guys. At my number 9, this one might come as a surprise to you guys, Alperen Sengun. I like Sengun for a variety of reasons. The main one is he's a guy you can have out on the court and you can trust. Obviously, defensively, not nearly as good as Alonzo Mourning, but I think his offense is just that slightly better. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Wherever Sengun is wherever Jokic has to be. Now, I know a lot of you guys do have Jokic. He was available via the Ascension, I think, last season. And I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out in a locker code, something like that, for winning the MVP as well. But Sengun and Jokic, they're both guys offensively that are really talented. Both of them defensively have their kind of limitations. But I think both guys, you're not at a competitive disadvantage if they're your power forwards. Obviously, if they're up against Wemby or KP, you know, you're not going to have the advantage in that matchup. But both cards offensively are good enough, and defensively can at least go out there and compete. Do think both of them do deserve a spot on this list. Now to my number 7, a newer guy, bold Bam Adebayo. I think the difference in level between a guy like Bam and a guy like Sengun and Jokic is absolutely massive. Okay, so that needs to be known for you guys watching this video. I think Bam is quite a bit better than Jokic, quite a bit better than Sengun, and a lot of it has to do with the defense. The one thing Bam doesn't have going for him when it comes down to talking about this is he's not quite as tall. Bam's only 6'9", and that definitely does have a little bit of a limit to, you know, the level in which he can play at. And again, I like Bam. I think Bam is fantastic. I just think when it comes down to comparing him to some of the other power forwards, that's really where Bam is limited. Release on a very quick, obviously defensively going to get you a lot of stops. I just wish he was slightly taller so there weren't any limitations on the card. Coming in at my number 6, Kevin McHale's new card. Now, I'm slowly grinding for Kevin McHale. Again, it's very slow grind. I'm not really worried about getting him because I don't necessarily think the card would play for me. But I think Kevin McHale is really solid. Now, let's talk about why, and then my number 5 is going to be a card I do compare him to at least a decent amount. For me, Kevin McHale, the iffy thing is this release. The Sengun base on very quick, it's fine. Pro 2 leaner's nice. MJ dribble style is nice. For me, it just comes down to this. Is he that top tier level? And I don't know. For me, I've seen his release be okay. Obviously, defensively, I'm impressed. But I have not played against Kevin McHale. So his impact to me is still a big time question mark. I do think he is still one of the better power forwards in this game. And honestly, guys, as I'm thinking and doing this list, I think he could easily be all the way up to my number 2. Honestly. if I get Kevin McHale and he shows me some things, he could go up to number 2. The reasons he's at number 6 right now is because I haven't personally used this card. But as I'm looking at this list, I think he easily could be number 2. My next guy on this list, Bill Russell. I've been low on Bill Russell, to be honest, and I probably should be higher on the card. For me, Bill Russell and Kevin McHale. Who's better? Let's talk about it, because I think it needs to be talked about. I think the cards are really similar, to be honest. Kevin McHale has a higher 3-ball. Bill Russell is slightly better defensively. Bill Russell has better hotspots. Kevin McHale has maybe better animations in 6. Really think it is a preference-based type of thing. Between these two cards, I think both of them are really solid, coming in at my number 6 and number 5. For both of them, they're only 6'10". And when I get to talking about my number 3 and my number 2, you guys can absolutely disagree with me on them, and that's okay. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to move both these guys up, because my number 4 really does not make sense. So I'm going to backtrack a second and plug Moses Malone into my number 6. Because as I'm looking at Bill Russell and Kevin McHale, I'm like, there is absolutely no way Moses Malone deserves to be higher than them. And I like Moses Malone. I think his jump shot is probably the best out of all of them. But that's it. That's the only thing Moses Malone is going to do better than Bill Russell and Kevin McHale. So I like this a little bit more. I do think Moses does have the slight advantage to Bam because he is an inch taller. And I've always been a huge fan of Moses Malone. Part of the reason I'm a huge fan of Moses Malone is because I didn't get him. So, I mean, there's probably always in the back of my mind, like, man, I wish I would have got, I've always thought to myself, I wish I would have got him. This card is absolutely incredible because I like Karl Malone because of his release. Moses Malone has that same release. So, again, I've always probably been a little too high on Moses Malone. But when I went back and looked at things, initially when I made this list, I was like, you know what? Really do like Moses Malone. But as I went back and looked at it, I'm like, I cannot make the case he's better than Bill Russell and Kevin McHale. So hopefully you guys get it. Moses Malone at number 6, Kevin McHale at number 5, Bill Russell at my number 4. At my number 3, Galaxy Hope with D-Rob. And here's a guy I literally cannot put. I just can't put him. I can't put a guy like Bill Russell over David Robinson. Why? David Robinson is 7'1". He's 7'1". And no matter whether you like David Robinson or not, whether you got him out of the salary cap or not, whether you got him out of the pack market or not, he is absolutely elite. He is 7'1", 7'5" wingspan, 91 3-ball, 93 speed, great interior perimeter, great badge-wise, D-Rob based unquick, which is just fine. I went back and used the Diamond D-Rob the other day in salary cap. And even the Diamond D-Rob was still hooping still to this day. So I do think David Robinson is really good, deserving of this number 3 spot. It's just hard because he is partly behind gambling right now. And that's why I hate doing these ranking lists as it stands right now, because it's just tough for me to do. Who's behind gambling, who's not behind gambling? It used to be easy to do, but it's only gotten harder since 2K's added some of these cards as mode rewards, took them from mode rewards, put them in the pack market. What am I even supposed to do at this stage? I don't know. D-Rob at my number 3. At my number 2, Hakeem Olajuwon. I told you guys this before I recorded that Hakeem would be featured on this video. He's all the way up here at number 2. Now, Hakeem's release is weird. I want to start with that because his release is still one I don't know about, and I think it's because of the upper more than anything. I think the Vucevic base is actually really solid this year. The DeMarcus Cousins upper, he shoots it from like the other side of his body. Pro 2 leaner, one of the bigger pros for Hakeem Olajuwon, MJ dribble style. To me, he's very similar to David Robinson. I just think offensively with that Pro 2 leaner, gives me a little more, and I think defensively, cards are relatively on that same type of level. I just think when I've used Hakeem, he has been so good for me. And even when I've tried replacing him, I got Bill Russell, tried playing Bill Russell over him. I got some other power forwards, tried playing him over them. I feel like I always go back to Hakeem Olajuwon. It's crazy, but I still think Hakeem is in that elite type of level. He's also going to be featured on the center list just because I think he's just as good at both positions. At my number 1, and this one should come as a surprise to nobody, Dark Matter Dikembe Mutombo. Now, yes, Wemby would be here. Now, yes, if you want to talk about KP, they'd all be here. But Dikembe Mutombo is your best power forward in the game, not behind gambling. And honestly, I think the gap between a guy like Dikembe Mutombo and a guy like Kristaps Porzingis is so small. I honestly think Dikembe might have the advantage. I honestly think Dikembe is close to being good as that Dark Matter Victor Wembanyama. So even if you don't have Wemby, I want you guys to hear it from me. You're fine. You're okay. Because Dikembe Mutombo is here. Upgrade the 3-ball, upgrade the shooting badges, and you've got one of not only the best bigs in the game, one of the best cards in the game. The best power forward, in my opinion, by a wide margin. When I'm looking at this, the gap between Dikembe and Hakeem is bigger than the gap between Hakeem and Kevin McHale. Like, it's really that big. Obviously, my 8 through 10, I'm really not that high on in this video, to be honest. But when you're talking about your top 7, you're talking about elite power forwards, and that's the gap between Dikembe and Hakeem. I mean, I think it is so large. Great release. The Malachi Flynn base is fantastic. Pro 2-leaner, MJ dribble style. If you did complete salary cap, count yourself lucky. Because there's a lot of people that don't do salary cap, and the reason they don't do salary cap is because they don't trust 2K enough to give them a good card. And if they don't give you a good card, you've wasted, what, 20 hours of your time grinding for a card that you are unsure about. That's the one thing about Dikembe Mutombo that I do believe is tough. But if you got Dikembe, one of your best power forwards in the entire game. Let me know your thoughts on my finalized top 10 power forwards in the game. Again, gets a little dicey after 7, but I think my top 7 are pretty solid. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and as always, man, I love you guys. Have a blessed day.